Good afternoon. We are in the middle of a Mesic hardwood forest in Itasca County. I'm with Brad Jones, Itasca Community College instructor, former Itasca County forester, and video master extraordinaire.
University of Minnesota graduate.
There you go. I'm Andy David, and this is a video we're making in place just to help folks see what a Mesic hardwood site looks like. You may see a black dog run through the frame at some point. Don't worry, that's mine, it's not a bear. All right, Brad, tell us a little bit about this site.
So just to give you a reference, we're about 3 miles southeast of Grand Rapids, so pretty much central, a little bit on the north end of what we would consider the typical hardwood forest area in Minnesota. You're looking at a site here that is a fairly high quality site for our area. If you're thinking about ECS classification or site quality, we would consider this a Mesic hardwood, as Andy said. From a moisture nutrient standpoint, it's in that 3-5 range, so a bit on the drier side, but fairly rich. So if we think in terms of moisture and nutrients, a bit drier, but a bit on the richer side. And so what makes it that way, I guess, is one of the things we're here to talk about. Much of this area is underlain by sands and gravels. So at depth, we run into sands and gravels, and digging holes out here is going to yield the sand and gravel down the full length of the auger, 60 plus inches. But on the surface, so that kind of gives us the drier part of that. On the surface, we have a wind-blown sediment, so glacial origin, wind-blown silt on the surface, and it varies in depth out here from anywhere from 6 inches to, in some cases, more than 12 inches. And so that really adds the nutrient capacity on a site like this. So drier, but but fairly rich. And so when we think about what does that mean for the forest, I guess, as far as the forest health consideration, what it tells us is that on wet years, like we've had a very wet year, this subsoil, the sandy part, is saturated. There's plenty of moisture, and the trees don't really undergo much stress. But on dry years, when that subsoil dries out, we tend to have a bit of stress on these trees. And so it pushes it more to that what we would consider not your typical sugar maple basswood site like you saw on a previous video, or you will be visiting on the next video. So again, sandy underlain, silty surface, which gives it the kind of that nutrient end of it. And so I think now we're going to look at what we see for a suite of plants out here. And you'll see that it is very diverse from an overstory standpoint.
Thanks, Brad. And while we play the old switcheroo, I'm going to walk over here. Brad will put me, he's going to rotate. There we go. So some of the things that you should recognize fairly easily, something like paper birch. All right, so we've got paper birch on site. Actually, we have quite a bit of variety on this site, which is nice. We work with a number of things here. You know, we've got some sugar maple here. We've got red maple over here. This is a young red maple, well, a small red maple. I'm not quite sure about age. Back this way, we've got, yep, now I can see a clump of basswood. All right. We've also got, I don't know if you can see it through here, maybe not, but we've got poplar there, and we've got another one here, and in this case, this is tremuloides, or trembling aspen. Northern red oak in this site as well. We've actually got a fairly good representation of northern red oak here. That additional fertility helps keep it on site, but it's a bit dry, so we don't have a lot of other things competing with it. You know, we don't have a whole lot of basswood. We've got sugar maple on site, and we see a lot of sugar maple in the understory, We'll get to why that is in a moment. You know, dead rotting paper birch. The one thing we wanted to make sure we kind of gave you a chance to see. Oh, I'm moving faster than we can rotate.
I think I got her.
Northern red oak again, another red oak. This is a classic large red maple. Take a look and see how you have this bark starting to exfoliate, almost like a shaggy appearance. If you were down a little bit farther south, you might say shagbark hickory, although that would actually be even more extended. But it starts to peel side to side, and you've got these horizontal check marks within the peeling bark. You probably noticed a couple of things. One are these blue marks on some of the trees. This site's been marked for thinning, and it just hasn't happened yet. So we figured before they got in here and thinned, this would be a good place to show you a number of species. The other thing is this, in the background, we've got a couple of fallen trees. These tend to be, at least on this site, they tend to be northern red oaks that have fallen over. They've tipped, usually due to wind. And in this case, one's fallen or snapped, and it's impacted others and created an opening, a gap opening. It's really small. It's maybe 1 or 2 tree crowns in size, but it's still enough to allow gap dynamics. So what's going to come in here? What's going to take over on this spot? And if you walk through there as we did earlier, we saw a number of acorns on the ground. In fact, there's northern red oak acorn right there. Okay, if we had our pen out, we could put the 2 little eyes, the nose and the face, and there'd be Pierre. But we don't see any oak sprouting. There's really not enough light. Just 1 or 2 tree openings, not enough light to get oak going. We don't see red maple in there. We don't see birch in there. What do we see? Sugar maple. There's enough light that sugar maple can take off and get started. All right, or if it's in the understory, it can take advantage of that light and start moving. But if we want to get any of these other species in here to get it reestablished for another generation, we need a larger opening. You know, some of the work done in Aiken County, they've been playing around. They need at least a half-acre opening. You know, half-acre to 1 acre opening sizes are what they're targeting. So if you don't want to do clear cut, but you do want to get some of these mast species in, or keep this diversity, you know, think about it. We've got paper birch, northern red oak, sugar maple, red maple, basswood, and trembling aspen. We've got at least 6 in here that we've seen. If you want to keep that diversity, you need openings to regenerate those species. Why are the red oak falling? You know, we don't know exactly why, but we're thinking it has something to do with that shallow silt layer. Remember, it varies 6 to say 18 inches or so, and then sands and gravel underneath that. So those oaks are probably going to have their feeder roots. They're looking for that high fertility soil in that upper 6 to 18 inches. And if we get really dry, that upper layer dries first. Those feeder roots die back, and then we have a problem because we don't have a whole lot of support. This year's been wet. Last year was wet. A few years ago we were dry for a number of years, and those oaks may have suffered as a result of that. In this case, they may be falling over as a result of just wind events or snow or ice loading. Unfortunately, when they fall over, there's not enough of an opening to regenerate them, even though they're putting down seeds. Great wildlife habitat. It's a really good year for acorns. I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe I'll sit out here this fall. But we're not seeing that recruitment in the understory. The site, without disturbance, wants to go to sugar maple. All right. The only other thing that I want to add, and this would be a shameless plug for a different class, would be if we look down in the understory, one of the things that we see a fair amount of are these bellworts that come up and branch out. This would be a non-flowering version this year. And these are typically indicators of decent fertility on the site. So you're going to see these uvularia species on sites with good fertility, you know, decent moisture. This is probably, like Brad said, a 3 for moisture and a 5 for fertility. So we'll often see the bellworts on a site like this. If you don't see them, it's likely that you're in a much drier, probably a fire-dependent site. Anything else?
Yeah, I think it's significant too to think about another contributing factor to the loss of some of these large canopy trees are simply age. They're reaching their biological maturity.
They're aging out, and that'll vary by site and species.
Right.
But on a site like this, you know, it's not the greatest site, because when it is dry for prolonged periods, the trees do suffer. What are we guessing? They're 70, 80 years old?
About 80 probably, yeah. Yeah, 70,
the
80,
sugar
yeah.
maple could probably go longer, but some of the others are they're aging out.
Yeah. And the oak, as you see it,
Yep.
the paper birch and certainly the aspen all have reached that age where other stresses
Are starting to get to them.
yeah, starting
I don't know
to
if folks
accumulate.
noticed
Yeah.
the conchs on that far poplar over there, but you know, that's a sure sign that it's aging out, if you will. And the fact that we're starting to get conchs and of course dead paper birch as well. Yeah, they're reaching the end of their lifespan for this site. All right. Thank you very much. Oh wait, dog, come here. Come here. Can you say hi? All right.
Okay,